She did it every Friday morning, without fail, while the shower was running. Frank stood under the hot spray, completely unaware that his wife was handling his medication with surgical precision. Her manicured fingers swapped the blood pressure tablets one by one, replacing them with identical-looking white pills from a baggie. By the time Frank walked into the kitchen, towel over his shoulder, the bottle sat exactly where it always did, but he noticed the cap wasn't twisted to the notch he always used. A tiny detail, but it lodged in his mind.
I always line up the arrow with the ridge. It's off.
He tipped a pill into his palm. It was slightly smaller, the texture off.
This isn't my medication.
He put the pill back, closed the bottle, and set it on the counter exactly as it was found.
I need to watch this closely.
That afternoon, after Cynthia left for her book club, Frank opened his laptop and typed a search.
A hidden camera. No blinking lights, no sound. Pharmacy grade, 1-week delivery.
He ordered it without hesitation. The email confirmation arrived before he closed the lid. 2 days later, the package arrived. He unboxed it in the garage, away from the kitchen windows. Thursday morning, the house was empty. He climbed the stool and secured the camera above the cabinet trim. The wide-angle lens captured the entire counter, the pill bottle in perfect frame. He synced the feed to his tablet and tested it from the sofa.
Clear as day. Now we wait for Friday.
He climbed down, tucked the stool away, and left the kitchen exactly as before. The bait was set. All he had to do now was wait for her routine to repeat. The Friday routine was so smooth, it was almost beautiful. Cynthia grabbed her purse, blew a kiss toward the bathroom, and left. Frank emerged, water still dripping from his hair, and stood in the silent kitchen. He went to the study, opened the laptop, and clicked on the camera feed. The timestamp showed 7:14 a.m. He watched as Cynthia walked into frame. On the screen, her manicured hand dumped the real pills into a Ziploc bag and replaced them with identical white tablets from her purse. Frank's knuckles went white on the desk.
She's been swapping my blood pressure medication with something else. This isn't just theft. This is attempted murder.
He did not reach for the phone. He did not call 911.
If she wants me dead, she'll have to watch me die first. I'll give her front row seats.
That afternoon, Frank emptied the prescription bottle onto the counter and wiped it clean. From a fresh bottle, he dropped in sugar capsules that looked identical.
Perfect. She won't be able to tell the difference.
He screwed the cap on tight, carried the decoy to the kitchen, and set it in its usual spot. The real blood pressure pills he concealed in the bathroom cabinet behind a stack of spare towels.
Every morning from now on, I'll take them here after my shower.
Then he picked up the phone and dialed Mr. Harlow, the only man he trusted.
Mr. Harlow, I need you at dinner this Friday. Bring the trust documents. This will be more than social.
He called Sandra and invited her warmly. Later, he told Cynthia about the dinner. She smiled at the thought of family, never suspecting the real agenda.
This time next week, her life will be in pieces.
On Tuesday morning, Cynthia slid a brochure across the coffee table.
Frank, honey, with your pressure so high, maybe we should bump up the policy, just to be safe.
If it makes you feel better, sure, call the agent.
She squeezed his hand and left the room, the brochure already in her purse.
There it is, the policy. She's already counting the money.
The next morning, she watched him swallow the sugar pill with a smile that lingered a beat too long.
He's so trusting. Soon he won't even know what hit him.
Thursday night, Frank sat alone in the dark study, the footage loaded on his tablet, ready. Friday came. She kissed him, goodbye with extra warmth, reminding him the guests would arrive at 7.
7 o'clock. The moment when everything unravels. She has no idea what's waiting for her.
That afternoon, Frank set the sugar pill bottle on the dining room sideboard, right where Cynthia would look for it. He checked the tablet one last time, then slipped it into his briefcase beside the table. Cynthia came home at 4, carrying grocery bags and humming. She wanted the table to look perfect.
Frank, I picked up those candles you like. It'll be so cozy.
She arranged fresh flowers and repositioned the forks 3 times. Sandra arrived at 6:30, carrying a bottle of wine. The sisters embraced in the hallway.
Cynthia, you look gorgeous. This dinner is long overdue.
At 5 to 7, Mr. Harlow knocked. Frank opened the door and they exchanged a look that said nothing but meant everything. They gathered around the white-clothed table. 4 places, 4 wine glasses, the evening light softening the room.
The bottle is in place. The camera is still up there. In 1 hour, her world ends.
The first course had barely been cleared when Frank lifted his glass.
To family. The one we choose and the one we keep.
So, you two, any plans for an anniversary trip? You've been together almost a year now. We're thinking a quiet mountain cabin. Just us, watching the leaves change.
Her gaze brushed the clock on the far wall, 10 minutes past 7.
Before the roast arrives, I'd better take my medication. Doctor's orders.
He stood and walked to the sideboard where the pill bottle waited. His thumb and forefinger lifted a single white capsule, holding it up in the chandelier light. Cynthia's eyes never left him. Her lips parted slightly, as if counting down seconds.
Swallow and smile. This is where the countdown really begins.
He placed the capsule on his tongue, took a long sip of water, and returned to the table as if nothing had happened. Cynthia's eyes tracked him like a hawk. The faintest smile curved her lips. The roast arrived. Frank complimented the seasoning and poured himself more wine. 10 minutes passed. His color was good, his laugh genuine.
Why isn't he feeling it? The dose should have started working by now.
At 15 minutes, she began twisting her napkin under the table, her ankle tapping the chair leg.
Another glass, Sandra.
20 minutes in, Frank finished his dessert and was telling a story about his old manufacturing plant.
This isn't possible. He should be dizzy, breathless. Something is wrong.
Her face had drained of color, while Frank looked healthier than he had in months. Under the table, Cynthia's phone lit up. She tapped the screen, checking the time with frantic fingers.
I think I need some fresh air. The wine hit me harder than I thought.
She pushed back her chair, but Frank's hand caught her wrist before she could fully stand.
Not yet, sweetheart. The evening isn't over.
His voice was velvet, but the command was iron. She sank back into her chair, color draining further. Sandra's fork hovered mid-air, a string of pasta dangling. Her eyes darted between her sister and Frank. Mr. Harlow set down his knife with a quiet click, his expression unchanged but watchful. Frank rose with unhurried calm and walked to the sideboard. He opened his briefcase.
I think it's time we all watched a little home movie.
He held up the tablet, its screen dark. Cynthia's eyes locked onto it, a flicker of terror breaking through her mask. Frank set the tablet on the tablecloth, its screen still dark. Cynthia stared at it as if it were a loaded weapon. He pressed the play icon. The footage began, bright morning light, the kitchen counter sharp. On the screen, the cabinet door swung open. A manicured hand took down the lisinopril, unscrewed the cap. The hand shook out the small white tablets, then refilled the bottle from a plain baggie in the drawer. Sandra's napkin dropped from her fingers. She whispered, "Number."
It's not. You don't understand.
Frank paused the footage. The timestamp read 7:19 a.m., the same Friday she had kissed him goodbye.
That is you, Cynthia. Every Friday, I have them all.
The silence that followed was so thick you could feel it pressing on your skin. Cynthia's trembling became a full-body shiver. She looked at the door, then at Frank, knowing there was nowhere to run.
Frank, this is a misunderstanding. I was just emptying the old bottle. I thought it was expired. I'd never hurt you.
You were emptying it into a baggie and refilling it with diphenhydramine. I had the pills tested.
Diphenhydramine? That's what's in sleeping pills. It would make his heart race. It could kill someone with high blood pressure. I didn't know what those were. Someone must have swapped them. Maybe the pharmacy.
The camera shows you, and only you, handling that bottle every Friday morning for the last 4 months.
Cynthia's face crumpled. She tried to speak, but only a choked whimper emerged.
You were going to let him die? For what? His life insurance?
Mr. Harlow set down his pen, his stare fixed on Cynthia, without a flicker of sympathy.
She never even asked how much I really had. She just assumed the payout was worth murder.
The silence after his words was broken only by Cynthia's ragged breathing, her world reduced to the space of that dining room.
Do you want to know what you've been feeding me for the last month? Sugar pills.
Cynthia's head snapped up, her tears stopping abruptly. Her mouth fell open.
I switched the bottles the day after I saw the first footage. Every capsule you touched was harmless.
You tried to kill him. With your own hands, in his own kitchen, while he showered.
Cynthia could only shake her head, her mouth opening and closing without sound.
The police have had a copy of that footage since Tuesday. They're waiting for my call.
No, no, no.
You'll be charged with attempted murder, Cynthia. That's a long sentence.
He gave you everything, and you tried to take his life. You are not my sister. I don't know you.
Cynthia slumped forward, her forehead touching the cold tablecloth, sobs racking her body. Frank reached into his briefcase again and withdrew a thick manila folder.
There's more, Cynthia. I filed for divorce 2 weeks ago.
He opened the folder and slid the petition across the table, the seal of the county courthouse stark under the light.
It's already in the system. The marriage is over, no matter what you say tonight.
He pulled out another document, stapled and signed at the bottom, the prenuptial agreement.
You signed this thinking I was a broke pensioner.
Cynthia reached for it, with shaking fingers, her eyes scanning the clause she had ignored.
$0. But you said you lived simply. You never told me.
You tried to kill me, Cynthia. That was your answer to a simple life.
Sandra covered her face, while Mr. Harlow simply nodded at the documents, his role complete.
You tricked me. You said you were broke, that you had nothing. You lied about everything.
I said I lived simply. I never once claimed to be poor. You filled in the rest. Before we met, I sold my manufacturing company. The sale brought me $11 million.
11 million. And I signed a prenup that entitles me to 0. All that money. And you chose to become a murderer for a policy payout.
She never asked about my history. She only saw a pension and a life insurance check.
I could have had everything.
She stared at the prenup, her signature mocking her greed. Her body sagged, the fight draining out of her completely. Sandra turned and walked to the window, her back to her sister. Mr. Harlow closed his briefcase.
How could you do this? He was your husband. You stood at an altar and promised him forever.
Cynthia opened her mouth, but only a cracked sob came out. She had no explanation left.
You have 15 minutes. Take only what fits in a single bag. Then leave my house.
Cynthia pushed her chair back like a woman underwater. The legs scraped the floor. She didn't look at Sandra or Frank. She simply walked toward the hallway stairs. Sandra collapsed into a chair, burying her face in her hands. Her shoulders shook. Mr. Harlow rose, buttoned his jacket, and gave Frank a single nod. His job was done. Frank remained standing, his eyes fixed on the empty hallway where his wife had just vanished. Somewhere upstairs, a drawer opened and closed. A closet door clicked. The sounds of someone packing a life. She had arrived with nothing but hope, and now she would leave with even less. Cynthia came down the stairs, a single duffel bag slung over her shoulder. Her eyes were swollen, her makeup ruined, but she held her chin up as if she still had pride. Frank stood near the foot of the stairs, arms crossed, watching her descend.
Even now, she still expects a reprieve.
Cynthia passed him without looking, her shoulder barely missing his. Her perfume trailed behind her, a ghost of the life she was leaving. Sandra was still in the dining room, face hidden. Mr. Harlow stood beside the door, briefcase in hand.
Mail the rest of your things or I'll have them shipped. You won't be coming back.
Cynthia's hand found the brass handle. She paused, her back to him. She stood there for a long moment, as if waiting for a word that would never come. Cynthia turned her head slowly, enough to see Frank still standing in the hallway, arms crossed, her lips parted as if to mouth one final word, but the sound died before it could form. Frank's face remained stone. No anger, no mercy, just the flat line of finality.
You had your chance. You chose poison. You would have watched me die.
She turned back to the door, her fingers curling around the brass handle. The night air swept in as she pulled it open. The door slammed shut with a force that vibrated through the floorboards. A coat fell from its hook. Inside the dining room, the silence that followed was absolute. No one moved. Sandra's soft sobs were the only sound, muffled into her crumpled napkin. Mr. Harlow stepped forward and quietly hung the fallen coat back on its hook, his movements precise. Frank sat motionless, staring at the closed door as if waiting for the world to start again. It did not. For a full minute, no one spoke. Then Mr. Harlow gently lifted Sandra by the arm.
I'll drive you home, Sandra. This house has seen enough tonight.
Sandra nodded without looking up, allowing herself to be guided to the hallway.
I am sorry. I didn't know. I am so sorry.
You have nothing to be sorry for, Sandra. Go get some rest.
Frank closed the door behind them and slid the deadbolt into place. The house fell silent again. He walked back to the dining table, where the folder and the tablets still lay among the dirty dishes. He picked up the prenuptial agreement and read the clause again, the one that gave her nothing.
She signed away every cent thinking I had nothing. The irony is perfect.
He set the paper down and looked around the empty room. The night was over, and he was still standing. He left the dining room and walked through the dark house, switching off lamps one by one. In the kitchen, he pulled the wooden stool from the closet and climbed up to the cabinet trim. He unscrewed the tiny mount with his fingers and lowered the camera into his palm. He stepped down from the stool, folded it, and slid it back into the hall closet. Then he opened a kitchen drawer, placed the camera inside among old receipts, and shut it with a soft click.
It's over. No more watching.
He unlocked the back door and stepped onto the porch. The night air was cool. A half moon hung over the yard, its pale light touching the garden.
She would have killed me for nothing. Instead, she lost everything.
He stood there, feeling the weight of the months drain away, leaving only the quiet. The next morning, Frank padded barefoot onto the back porch with a steaming mug of coffee. The sunrise spilled gold over the garden, the first warm colors of a world without betrayal.
Clean air. Quiet. No pills waiting on a counter. No hidden cameras. Just this.
He set the mug down and looked at his left hand. The ring was still there, a thin gold band he had worn for months. With his thumb and forefinger, he worked the ring loose and slid it slowly over his knuckle.
She put this ring on me with a lie. I am taking it off with the truth.
He placed the ring on the table beside his coffee, where it caught the sun, a small, unimportant circle now.
11 million, a quiet life, and now no one trying to kill me. I'd say that's a fair trade.
The faint smile on his face wasn't victory. It was release, and for the first time in a long year, he sat back and let the day begin. The coffee was still warm when his phone buzzed against the wooden table, rattling the spoon beside his mug. He glanced down. A message from Mr. Harlow lit the screen, no notification sound needed. He opened it. The words were as direct as the lawyer himself. DIE accepted. Warrant pending. Likely arrest by noon. Frank read the lines, his face unmoving, then set the phone down with a quiet deliberation.
She'll be in handcuffs before lunch. It's no longer my burden.
He turned his gaze upward as the sun climbed, its rays spilling warmth across his shoulders. A light breeze carried the scent of fresh earth from the garden, and the birds sang on without pause. He picked up his coffee and took a slow, deep sip, savoring the rich bitterness.
I built this life for one reason. Peace. No drama, no lies. And now I truly have it.
And he sat there, motionless, as the golden morning wrapped around him like a blanket, and he was finally still. He finished the last of his coffee and set the mug aside, rising from the chair with a slow, easy stretch. He walked barefoot into the garden, the dew still cool beneath his soles. He crouched beside a tomato plant, its red fruit warm and firm against the green vine.
Months ago, I was just a man taking pills on a Friday. Now I am a man growing tomatoes. That's a good upgrade.
He plucked a ripe cherry tomato and popped it into his mouth, the burst of sweetness simple and real. A genuine smile stayed on his face, not for anyone to see, just for himself. The garden was quiet, except for the birds, and he was just a man and his tomatoes. He took a deep breath, the air clean, free of any pills or pretense. As the sun climbed higher, he didn't move, letting the moments stretch into a new beginning. And slowly, gently, the world around him faded to black, leaving only the sound of birdsong.